So good afternoon. Happy to be here. At the onset, I think everything that I agree actually with both the speakers almost wholeheartedly. Just to put the focus on specifics, this is the time when we need a national growth strategy. Because 5 trillion economy is not just about tinkering, it's not just about minor tax reforms. It will take a concerted effort across all ministries to deliver that 5 trillion. Let me just give you an example of, you know this perhaps, from Bangladesh and India in terms of apparel. How is it that in last 11 years, Bangladesh has now, it's exporting double the amount of apparel that we are exporting, with very similar background, very similar skills. So that's one. Tourism. Thailand in the last 12 years has now attracted 3 times as many tourists as we do. So our neighborhood has started to take advantage of this global resurgence and affluence and shifting consumption patterns. We need to also avail this window of opportunity which the trade war between US and India, US and China are opening up for us. But it's not just going to happen unless we actively announce and implement a slew of policies that make India a competitive destination to do business out of. So all in all, Pooja, if I were to, there are many things and you've already heard, but right now a concerted national growth strategy. We need to really draw out a strategy for this vision that the Prime Minister has laid out in the form of 5 trillion. And as Sanjay said, in a time-bound fashion, that's more from a long-term perspective. But more immediately, given the place where we are, we do need to raise investments, but this is also the time for the government to make these massive infrastructure spending. We need to go out and invest. We need to spend now in massive infrastructure projects, the type we saw after NDA 1 or during the time frame of NDA 1, because what they lead to is a long-term growth trajectory. Now let me also tell you that it has been since 2012 that private investment has been dipping. And a lot of it has to do with what you said, which is the expectations. In 2012, when the laws were amended by the then finance minister, is when basically we gave a blow to private enterprise and the kind of certainty in environment and the rule of law which economy requires. So now I'm getting to the judicial part of it. If I just compare the private market in India, how much credit they have relative to GDP with, let's say, China. And in our scheme of things, the way we see, China is a socialist country. But do you know, the credit to GDP ratio going to private sector in China is 140%. Do you know what it is for us? It's a little under 40%. So that is the kind of credit expansion we have seen through the private sector. We really need to reorganize the way we have thought about the economy. Government is not going to deliver us growth. The government is only going to set the systems in place, the framework within which this 5 trillion realization is going to happen. But besides that national growth strategy, we will have to have a time-bound deliverable for different ministries. What will it take for textiles to triple the textiles, the apparel exports? And it is not just labor reform. That's a very simplistic way to think of it. If you just compare the average cost of a shirt, an average shirt, what is the cost in Bangladesh, Vietnam, China, Kenya, Ethiopia? It gives you a sense that it's not labor that is holding us back. It's a lot of these import restrictions as well that we have. So we are not a competitive market. And the world is moving towards markets that are competitive. And when I say the world, I'm also talking about Indian enterprises. We need to set frameworks. And this is also where I think the reference we often don't make in terms of economic discussions is on the judicial reforms. Do you know the pendency? Do you know what is the average time required to clear a case dealing with some land dispute in Bihar? And also, from a national level, many statistics you have to go to the state level to actually understand the complexity. It takes on an average 15 years. Who will invest? Do you know how much time? By the way, even in Gujarat, it's actually not so good. In Goa, it takes about 13 years. Madhya Pradesh is our shining example as far as judicial structure is concerned. So we need to also make this, when we say rule of law, contract enforcement is very much a part of ensuring that investments happen in different parts of the country. And we will have to bring about those judicial reforms. So studying the pendency, getting to exactly what would it take, improving the HR capacity within the judicial system is also fundamental. And the only reason I'm saying is because it's one aspect of the economy that we almost never discuss. But more broadly, government investments into large infrastructure, our banks have the money. We need to now channel that towards long-term investments, which do lead to long-term productivity gains in the economy. And the national growth strategy. There's no getting away. All the sporadic announcements here and there is not going to lead to 5 trillion. It needs a concerted effort for the entire central government with partnership from all the states. So each and every ministry has to be a partner in this strategy of 5 trillion.